Gentlemen, India claims to be the largest democracy, and in some respects it is. Yet, ever since the BJP government has scrapped Article 370 and 35A, it is trying to keep Indian occupied Kashmir under a complete media blackout. While the people of Kashmir are living under a complete lockdown, under severe curfew, and with no or very little food, clothes, or medical supplies, the Indian media, barring a few exceptions, calling the situation as normal. It has continuously been distorting the ground realities about the unfolding events in Kashmir, not realizing that most of the international media houses have been reporting dire living conditions in Kashmir and the acts of defiance by the people of Kashmir against the Indian actions. Consequently, we see that the Indian media outlets continue to stress a state of normalcy in the Indian occupied Kashmir, just as Aisha was saying. What is more dangerous, ladies and gentlemen, is that this biased attitude is not confined to the state owned media. The corporate owned private media groups are also reporting the situation in Kashmir with a partial approach, narrating only what fits the official policy, and ignoring the realities on ground. By failing to factually report the ongoing crisis in Indian occupied Kashmir and continuing to fabricate stories and reports, the media in India is clearly showing its complicity with the extremist forces led by BJP government. Ladies and gentlemen, what we also notice, particularly since BJP's election victory in 2014, is that a major group of Indian news channels, broadly aligned with the BJP, have used Kashmir as a convenient tool to stir up,
whether in Pakistan or as Kashmiris, are serving the purpose of our ultimate objective of self-determination or actually doing a disservice to it. And the same goes for Pakistan. So, with those words, you'll notice that they have the ability to construct and demolish metaphysical walls. So what it does in so many ways, it shapes the way you are thinking, and by doing that, limits or constricts or directs or misdirects your actions. So there is something behind every word, rooted, unspoken ideas or concepts. Behind
apart from opening for few hours in the morning, shattered, and public transport is off the roads as a mark of silent protest against Indian occupation of the territory's special status. Number 4. Local newspapers have been reduced to few pages and they could not update their online editions since August 5 because of the gag on internet. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been asked to speak on the topic collusion between Indian media and the BJP government. Let me make it clear that few segments
and 465 million internet subscribers. So this shows that how magnificent and how powerful Indian media is or can be, because they have outreach to immense number of people. In that case, if Indian media is so rich and diverse, freedom of media in India, and with the lowest side of the index, in 2018, India was the fifth most deadliest place to be a journalist as per the Reporters Without Borders. 80 journalists were killed, out of which 63 were professional journalists.
Farhan Chef, he has done a very interesting and philosophical, and then he linked up very well. He said that ideas which are unspoken, they are either create inclusion or exclusion. And finally, he linked up with the 5,000 years of Indian history. And I got the result what he was trying to say. Why are they talking about 5,000 years of history and scientific developments and all that? Because he said it is an unspoken idea. And you look at the subcontinent, the Muslim rule is about 1,000 years or little more. And if you go beyond in the past without saying it, without saying any word, you say that we are 5,000 years old civilization. And therefore it covers Kashmir, it covers Pakistan, it covers Bangladesh, it covers everybody else. And they establish a kinship in the past. And I thought that was a very, very fascinating thing for me. And the second thing he said, and I also subscribe to that, that in Pakistan there is hardly any knowledge of history because in our schools and colleges and universities we don't teach history. And there is a saying that if you don't know history, your geography can be disturbed, and it has happened to us. So this was a very interesting. Indians are manipulating the media. I really fail to understand. And what is straight away the idea comes to Pakistani media. Pakistani media, I believe, is much junior to the Indian media, but it is more dynamic, more open, more free, and it is surprising. Is it a tribute to the Indian public and Pakistani public, or whatever it is? I could not understand this. Punishing the dissenters. He gave the example of Barkada. She is a very, very renowned media person. And he quoted that she is finding it very hard to continue with this free media entrepreneur. And then finally, they are supporting the Hindutva agenda. This is what he said. But later on, what Asma Sahib said, that it is under the establishment, Indian establishment. So the question is Indian establishment supporting and promoting Hindutva agenda? What are the other parties doing? I just do not find the answer to these problems. Now this is a very interesting statement. Media sells what people want to buy. Now what is Indian media selling? And what are the Indian people buying from that? Are they buying war? Actually they are. Because every time the BJP government goes into election, they do something. And there is no truth. You have seen yesterday, day before yesterday, in Azad Kashmir, Jura, Shahkot, these areas, and they said that we have destroyed 3 camps. These are the camps of the terrorists, they claim. Because there are elections in 2 states. One is the state of Haryana and second is Maharashtra. So it really connects very well with the theory and the practice of the media and the BJP government. Of course, there are questions. Is the Indian public so ignorant? In spite of the international media, and people say this is the media age, this is the internet age. This is surprising and puzzling to me. Water and rivers and all that. So this is where we are looking at. Policy support must be more than सफारती और ये जो हम कहते हैं 3 चीजें. We are a party to dispute. And I personally strongly recommend that let us upgrade this sport to everything other than the military sport. Everything other than the military sport, this should be the sport level. Kashmiri will fight the war. People of Pakistan must support, and inshallah, Allah will help us to win Kashmir. पाकिस्तान फौज है, बहुत सारे काम किए जा सकते हैं. वी आर नॉट स्ट्रेट थिंकिंग इनटू ईंट का जवाब पत्थर का मतलब है कि न्यूक्लियर वार के ऊपर चलो, बिल्कुल नहीं कह रहा हूँ. बट दीज थिंग्स हैव टू बी डिबेटेड. Kashmiris have to be given the kind of their morale has to be lifted. And mind you, this war, 30 years war, started as a result of influence of Afghanistan war. शायद ज़्यादा कश्मीरियों ने अफगानिस्तान में लड़ाई नहीं लड़ी होगी, लेकिन बहुत ज़्यादा कश्मीरियों ने अफगानिस्तान की वार की जो ट्रेनिंग है उससे फ़ायदा उठाया है. So if we are thinking that on their own alone everything will happen, I think we need to reconsider. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
The Institute of Policy Studies in Islamabad. My last speech was in Belgrade 4 days ago when I was speaking in the Interparliamentary Union, and I presented Pakistan's case, where Pakistan stands. There were 179 parliaments represented there through the speakers or the heads of delegation. Our Honourable Speaker had to go to another meeting, so he asked me to take over the head of the delegation, and I made the concordat speech on behalf of Pakistan. So I've come back home 2 days ago and found that this particular forum gives me the opportunity to share my views. I think the gentleman sitting on the table, or the lady plus the gentleman, the Honourable Lady and the Honourable Gentleman, have perhaps much more of a historical insight than myself, because my political career has obviously been on the total panorama of Pakistan's political life, and the kind of challenges that the state of Pakistan, the people of Pakistan and the respective governments of Pakistan have faced. We've had 3 written constitutions in Pakistan, most of us forget, and one constant factor which we have not been able to really perhaps address in the way that our people in 1947 must have thought we could address. And that's not been our fault. Possibly it's partly our fault to start with, but substantially has been the intransigence of the successive governments of India, starting with Jawaharlal Nehru. And my colleagues have gone into the philosophy, history of 5,000 years, and as I've said, but where did the trouble start? The trouble started when, you can call it, my colleague here from Canada, I believe now, mentioned that we shouldn't call it partition, we just should call it an evolution of the state of Pakistan. Yes, definitions do matter, words matter more than definitions. But in a way, they did call it, the then British Raj, the partition. We did not, they did. Because there were two propositions to Pakistan, British India. One was that India should stay united. The other one was that it should be separated into majority Muslim areas and majority Hindu areas primarily. And that was the division of British Raj. Pakistan, West and East, we were 2 separate geographical entities, but one nation state of Pakistan. Unfortunately, we lost our larger state, East Pakistan, in December 20th, 1971. Kashmir goes back to much earlier because of the 580 odd princely states which are there. And those states were asked by the then government in Westminster, Whitehall in London, to decide their own fate. And the mechanism they devised, the legal mechanism they devised, on how the two states will divide was through an instrument of accession. The then Maharaja, Nawab, whoever was the ruler of those princely states, on behalf of his people had to decide whether they wanted to join either Pakistan or India. They were not given the third option. And what happened was that three princely states decided that had not decided by the 14th of August 1947. We forget the other two, Hyderabad and Junagadh. I'm just reminding my colleagues here because they've spoken of at great length. I won't speak as long as them, but I'll try and pinpoint some of the issues which they have not highlighted. And that unresolved three princely states, two were Muslim, one was Muslim majority area Kashmir, the other were two Hindu majority states, Junagadh and Hyderabad. Hyderabad was the richest of all the 580 states of the then British India. And the Hyderabad Nizam happened to be a Muslim, the richest man in the world. He was the Bill Gates of his day. And in his wisdom, he did not want to join either India or Pakistan. And he retained his independence for 1 full year. Unfortunately for him and the people of Hyderabad, which we forget, the Indian militarily occupied and annexed Hyderabad. They did the same with Junagadh, except with Junagadh, the Nawab did sign the instrument of accession for Pakistan. They physically occupied it and held some kind of a referendum which went into India's favor. So that's those two states were taken care of. Kashmir was the unresolved third state. It did not decide. And what happened was there was an uprising within Kashmir. And so history says, the General Sahib here would know better than I. What transpired was that on the 27th of October, the then Maharaja Hari Singh signed an instrument of accession. I said signed because nobody has seen that instrument of accession. According to three scholars, nobody has actually seen that particular instrument of accession. And what happened? It was Jawaharlal Nehru who, through a complaint, took this complaint of resolving this issue of dispute to the UN Security Council. And what happened there? After exhaustive debates, they decided that it's disputed area and their future has to be decided through the plebiscite. So this was the decision taken collectively by the UN Security Council, which kept on repeating those resolutions for 11 times till the late 1950s. Nehru kept on the surface agreeing with this resolution, but never believed in them. He never wanted to implement them. In my opinion, he was deceiving his own people, and then he was a Pandit from Kashmir. He had a psychomotive connection. He agreed with the resolution in theory, but never in practice, in my assessment. And from that day till today, it didn't happen. We went to war. There was the first war, 47-48, second war, 65, third war, not directly linked with that, but it came much later in 1998, 1999. It did not resolve the Kashmir issue. It has not been resolved to today. 5th of August, fast forward, what happens? The Indians decide. And what do? Article 370, Article 35A. Pakistan has never recognized those. It was an internal arrangement made by the Indian occupied Kashmir with the Indian government. 370, special status to India. Three subjects with the federal government, central government of India. Foreign affairs, communications, defense. Everything else with the local assembly. They even formed a constituent assembly of Indian occupied Kashmir. And they came to this kind of a agreement that they would have 35A, definition of a citizen of Kashmir, which has protected Kashmir today, till today, until the 5th of August, that no non-Kashmiri can buy property in Kashmir. This was a very major concession amongst Abdullah and Nehru arrived at. And this has saved. This is why the General Sahib just said quite rightly that if demography changes in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, if things stand as they are, hopefully something will get resolved before that. And this is where the state of Pakistan comes in. This is where the people of Pakistan comes in. This is where the government of Pakistan. Sir, the Kashmir Committee represents the people of Pakistan in the sense that we were created in 1994 through a motion moved in the National Assembly of Pakistan, this Kashmir Committee, of which I am chairperson. It used to be only of representing the National Assembly of Pakistan, of the whole committee, of the whole assembly. Now it is composed of the National Assembly of Pakistan and the Senate. So we represent both houses of parliament. We don't classically represent the government. That is the Kashmir Ministry which does that. But we are the people's voice, Vox Populi, the representative of the people, the legitimate representative of people of Pakistan, and we are supposed to constantly take the Kashmir issue both internally within the Federation of Pakistan and outside. I have only gone out once. Recently, I was at the Speakers' Conference when the Speaker took me along. There were 6 speakers from China, Russia, Iran, Turkey, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Then we went to the IPU where we represented Pakistan at the International Forum of all parliaments. The UN General Assembly session where Mr. Imran Khan made a very, I think, effective case for Kashmir. We were representing Pakistan with the parliaments of the world, which is called the Interparliamentary Union. And this represents 179 parliaments, the rest of them are observers. The UN General Assembly has 193 members, which represents the whole country's executive governments. We were the parliamentary voice of the people, they are the executive voice of the people. And we overlap. The people of Pakistan today, sir, in my opinion, stand behind the people of Kashmir. There is no way we can ever think otherwise. How effective we are, this is the issue. What can we do? This is the big question. And this is for all of us. The responsibility, the duty is on every citizen of Pakistan. We feel, I as a citizen of Pakistan feel, that the responsibility and duty since the 5th of August has become much greater. Why has it become much greater? Specifically because of the hegemony. The hegemony the Indians have always tried to bring about in South Asia. SARC has become the most dysfunctional regional organization in the world. Why? You look at ASEAN. It's grown from strength to strength. You look at the European Union. 28, yes, Britain is now wanting to get out through Brexit, but very, very powerful conglomeration of states. Despite the fact for 1,000 years, the biggest enmity was between France and Germany. Today they stand together in the European Union. The United States of America had NAFTA. Between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. Yes, Donald Trump has certain reservations, but before that, this was becoming a very major force in the world. So we have to look at Latin American governments have their own. The African governments have their own. There's an Arab League. There's also the Muslims. Yes, the Islamic countries also have their own forum. Maybe not as effective as the stronger countries because military mights. GDPs of the world matter, sir. We all should know. $85 trillion is the world economy. Who controls the world economy? 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 nations. This group of 7, who do they represent? They represent the countries which impact through their economic functions, how they affect. Their ministers of finance meet every 3 months and decide on the rate of interest for the rest of the world. Yes? And who are the P5, the permanent 5 members of the United Nations? We are all members of the United Nations. But why are the 5 members? China, Russia, United States, Britain and France. Why do they dominate the United Nations? Because they were the victorious 5 countries. After World War II, they set up the United Nations. The United Nations Charter specifies, most of all, human rights, human freedom. Kashmir, all those human rights listed in the United Nations freedoms are being violated second to second, moment to moment, minute to minute, hour by hour by this moody government. But what is the world doing? The world has changed a little bit. I'll tell you why. Since the 5th of October, the narrative of the world media has changed. We were talking about, my colleagues here have given you a lot about the Indian media, much more than I know. But I can tell you about the world media. The New York Times, in my opinion, the most influential daily newspaper in the world, for the first time since July this year, 2019, what did it do? The Human Rights Council, they have made 2 excellent reports, pinpointing the atrocity, the kind of travesty of justice they have imposed upon the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. And what did they say in these 2 reports? 2018. The New York Times sent out their reporters and they wanted to know if these reports were truthful or not. And they came back and they said, so in very large coverage, first time, the Western press did not buy the Indian narrative. The Indian narrative sold between 2000 and 2016. The Indian narrative was selling in the Western press. Well, they were calling us a lot of names. I won't want to repeat those. That narrative was selling in the media. Complete change in the last 12 months, and especially in the last 4 months. There's a complete change in the international media. 11 reports have come out in the New York Times. One stinging editorial against this neo-fascist Modi and his government. Modi, Amit Shah, Doval. This is their doctrine of how they're running India. We in Pakistan must build up our own. Qaid-e-Azam gave us the best doctrines. How many of you have read the Qaid's thesis? I'm sorry to ask you. How many of you have read his 11th August speech? I won't ask you to raise hands, not too many people have. He laid out the people's charter. What people like Washington did for America, what people like Lincoln did, what the Napoleonic Code laid down for France, what Churchill did for his country. The Qaid Muhammad Ali Jinnah laid down the thesis where Pakistan should go today. And how many of us have revered those basic tenets of where Pakistan should head for? Maybe you think I'm being a little too passionate. I am. Because I, as a citizen of Pakistan, feel that we had great potential in this country. I'm one of those who has great belief in my country. But I feel we have not done enough. We had opportunities, we had challenges, as we do today. These challenges are not new, sir. Kashmir may have changed. Pakistan has, in that, yes, we've lost half of Pakistan. Most of us forget that, especially the new generation. That was a major denouement, the French word I use. And yet, we can lift ourselves up. And that is my real desire, my real wish, that the young people of Pakistan, and 75% of Pakistanis are today below the age of 30. Why have we not progressed? Why have we not advanced? Why have we not competed in the world? Tell me why. Only one reason. Because we have not been true to ourselves. We have not judged ourselves as normal citizens of the world. If we had justice in this country, if we had provided opportunities for the young across the board without discrimination, if we had invested in human resource of Pakistan, it's easy to say, but very difficult to enact. These are the challenges that Pakistan faces today when we have to resolve the Kashmir issue. It's not an easy game. It's very easy to make speeches, but actually to act upon them, that is the challenge. And that is the challenge this country is facing today. I think this government may have not been perfect, but I think they have made the impact. Why? Two reasons. A, China is totally with us. When after the 5th of August we wanted to take up this challenge, and we wanted to, after 1965, sir, the United Nations Security Council was convened. People say, what happened in that? Maybe the fact of the matter is that after 54 years, the UN Security Council was convened. I think it was a very big thing. Yes, closed door. Yes, no statement came out. But the fact, they recognize that it's an international issue and not an issue only between two countries. This was the big change. India has been harping on this theme since Simla Agreement. And why did we sign Simla? Because we had lost East Pakistan. That is why we signed Simla. And India had 90,000 of our people there. That is why we signed Simla. And yet we had a clause in that Simla agreement which gave us access to international organizations, which we did not frequently use. Now we have used it to telling effect. And the UNSC Security Council meeting has met. Yes, people will say, what will come out of it? You know, there are always people who are very pessimistic, who are very cynical. I'm not. Yes, as the Honorable General has just said, we have to fight and fight and fight and fight. Possibly not the nuclear fight. But we have to fight in every way of life. If we act responsibly as citizens in the way we do our things, and we compete and create that kind of ambience, that environment within Pakistan, I can tell you we can do a great deal to assist the Kashmir cause and the Pakistan cause, because Pakistan and Kashmir are one. I fully realize I'm an agriculturist, so what water means to agriculture. I'm fully aware of the Indus Basin Treaty, so I've read every clause of it. Yet I know what Modi is doing. I understand what his ulterior motives are. But who's going to stop him? We can never rely on outsiders. Just don't imagine. What happened in East Pakistan? वो कहाँ गए थे वो बेड़े जिन्होंने आना था? Never rely on anybody. We have to rely on our own strengths, our own skills, and whatever else we do. So let's build up that Pakistan. Let's within our own selves, look at our own. Where have we done? How have we gone? In what direction are we going? These are the areas we have to examine. I may not be a specialist in war, but I understand the implications of war. I understand the mechanisms of what the Pentagon is thinking. What is happening in Moscow? What's happening in Beijing? What's happening in Paris? What's happening in London? What's happening in Berlin? What's happening in Tokyo? And the emerging powers like Brazil and others. So, in a country like Pakistan, look at Pakistan first before we look at anybody else. We are very fortunate that China is there. I, for one, am very grateful. And I feel that we should have been the leaders of the OIC. Grateful to Turkey, grateful to Iran, grateful to Malaysia. These are the countries which have spoken of the Kashmir cause, not others so far. But they're looking at the equation. I don't want to talk about India, I know a fair amount about it, because I feel that it is we Pakistanis who will uphold the flag, and I, for one, am a great believer that Pakistan, sir, will do everything required of us to put Kashmir back on its feet. Thank you very much.
I'd like to invite Mirza Hamid Hassan Sahab and Amanullah Khan Sahab, both IPS